Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. Today's reading and video is at the request of one of my subscribers, Holly from Canada, who has asked me to do a read on the upcoming Canadian election, which will be taking place on April 28th, 30 days from today. Today is March 30th. I may release this on April 1st or something like that, but it is 30 days from this point of doing the reading. And just to see, what, maybe not necessarily what the outcome is, but how this last month will go. And certainly I think it would behoove me to do another reading as we get closer to April 28th, because any number of things can happen between now and then. Scandals can can surface at the last minute to malign somebody, that sort of thing. But as of right now, let's take a look at what the universe will allow us to see, the direction that the Canadian people are inclined to take. For this reading, I'll be using the Tarocchi Rosenwald by Marco Benedetti. I will not be using the Rivoltini, which has the folded edges. I'll be using the other one that I have. I had to do some repair work to the Rivoltini edge of one of the cards because I use it so much. I think I irritated one of the edges, so I wanted to give it a repair. And so I'm using this deck instead. It's hardy. It's not that it doesn't hold up, but I use it so much, and that one edge is vulnerable. So let me go into my meditative place, ask the universe to allow us to see as much as it sees fit for us to see regarding the election for Prime Minister between the two primary contenders, who are Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre, the first from the Liberal Party and the second from the Conservative Party. There are other parties that are in the run, but it's not believed that either of those parties will have enough votes to garnish a win. Okay. Oh, I hope things are hopeful for us, for the world. Everything every country does now, the rest of the world is sitting at the edge of its pants, right? We have the Queen of Swords. No nonsense. Nine batons, the pointing down to the front and center card of the core nine. This is organized collective effort. I see batons as a social a social suit. It would be interesting to see what the people are pointing at. And we have 4 coins, nice and stable. We have the Hermit, also primarily blue. Isn't that interesting? Now, I don't know if the Canadian colors for the Liberals are blue and if the Republicans or the Conservatives are red, but so we have the star. The collective nature of the individuals, the collective effort of the people went enlightenment. Wow. Okay. They're hopeful. And then we have the repeated sword, the beginning of something. Perhaps a thrust in a new direction, I don't know. We have 4 swords, good solid number, good communication. We have the older gentleman who holds a coin. Now this is reading for Canada. So I know one of the candidates is an older gentleman. He's 60 years old, and he was head of banking of Canada and England. So could this represent him? We also see the older gentleman of the Hermit. Now he's exiting, but this guy's in the thick of it here. And then we have the Queen of Coins. So he's in alignment with somebody, also in a position of power, or in agreement with someone, also in a position of power. They see eye to eye. So I go off and I do my quint cards. Since I don't assign numeric value to the court cards, this one is easy. This one would be the Emperor, so he'd go here. The Hermit is 9 plus 17 is 26, and 1 would be 27. Minus 22 would give us 5, the Pope. And then we don't assign numeric value, or I don't, to the Queen. So I add 9 and 4 and have 13. So let me pull those quint cards, and then I'll add them up and deduct 22 to get the overall quint for the spread. So I have to admit that I'm a bit concerned by the overall quint card being the Fool, because it suggests recklessness. It could also represent taking a chance in a new direction. He is going in a completely different direction than what's happening here. We do see a need for, or there is a need, or there is a calling for the end of something. What the end of what? The conservative card of the, I guess, this card can represent multiple things. In the context of a political question, it would suggest orthodoxy, right? Attachment to rigid rules, that kind of thing, extreme conservatism, being conservative. This guy, so we have a power struggle, right? We have, I guess we could say conservative and perhaps secular, representing more of the people. So we have an end, that is the quint for this row, that's flanked by orthodoxy, which is beneath flanked by the secular man of the people. And as I think I mentioned, that this may represent Carney, because he's an older gentleman who's, Carney I think is 60, and the other guy is, Polyev is I think 45, so he's considerably younger. Let's take a look at this row, the row that the Fool is fleeing from orthodoxy. So we have an older gentleman, wisdom. There is no lantern, and there is no hourglass, but he is older, and he's infirmed, and he's exiting the picture. He's turning his back on the star. Which is the hope of the people. I think the collective masses, right, pointing in this the collective masses pointing towards hope. If we follow all the way down, maybe the collective masses at this moment are aligning themselves with Carney, who is the older person, who is more secular, who would, represent, in more of the people, right? He's more of a secular ruler rather than one who is conservative. Wow, that's very interesting. But then why is the older guy here exiting? Why is wisdom leaving? Well, the Queen of Swords is above him. I mean, we have, a lot of political people here. I mean, the Pope is not supposed to be political, but he always was. He had more power sometimes than a secular emperor did. And in the context of politics, I see the Pope as the conservative, and I see the emperor as the one that appeals more to the masses. So I don't, so then we could, initially I saw the blue, maybe suggesting the liberal or the Liberal Party. And these two are calling to mind one another, and one's above the other. She's the queen. She's representing the monarchy. So could this be your governor general? Now, I know the governor general is not supposed to have an alignment with either of the political parties. She serves at the pleasure. Well, I don't know if she serves at the pleasure of the monarch, but she is his representative for, ceremonial things and stuff like that. I wonder if that's her. As a side note, I hope King Charles is doing okay. I know he's overcome cancer recently. Well, he's currently being treated, I guess. I haven't been following that very closely. But I don't see, I don't really see how the monarch would have anything to do with what's going on in Canada at the moment, because there's not a whole lot of power. It's just maybe this is like a side story that's happening. I don't know. I don't know. It seems like collectively the people have been organized, hopeful, and the line seems to be for this guy who seems to be Mark Carney, who is the Liberal Party, who also is more of a secular ruler for the people. Good solid communication. Maybe this means he's learning French. It could mean that he's learning French. So that I know that was one of his handicaps, is that he isn't fluent in French, or that he doesn't speak French very well. But maybe he's making an effort there. Aside from this row, this is the row that tells me what the people are organized to do. This is, at the moment, their momentum. But there seems to be some distractions. There's another 4, catacorner to this 4. And air and earth don't get along, so that's friction. Now they're far apart. I mean, it's not like they're one on top of the other, but they are in a dynamic position to one another. So there's kind of like a quintessential, there's a quintessential opposition here on this diagonal as well as this diagonal, because we have the same dynamic. Air and coin, air and earth, of 2 queens, which just really is just 2 women and 2 people in positions of power. Since none of the candidates are women, then it's just a power struggle in general. Isn't that interesting? So there's a real power struggle. Could it be that it's at the moment neck and neck? It could be that in the moment that it's neck and neck, with the with an organization now towards this. That's very interesting. I'm concerned by the Fool card, recklessness. This makes me a little nervous. However, the recklessness is fleeing. So it's like somebody does something reckless and then takes off, flees from it, like detaches himself from the responsibility. That's kind of what the fool does, right? He comes into town, he does something, and he takes off. There's no place for this guy in society. And isn't it interesting that both of these guys are taking off, where they're turning their backs? So it could be that young and old have turned their backs collectively on the orthodox leadership. This might not be beginnings, it could just be, power, the orthodoxy. So I know that after Trudeau resigned, that Mark Carney was put in place as the incumbent. But the trend of the people, I believe, was for the Conservative Party. So is it possible that there's friction now? There's friction. And maybe they're like neck and neck still, but the trend collectively is to go into this direction, is to go in support of an older gentleman who is supported by a like-minded, and then becomes the secular leader. So, the truth. So I'm thinking that the trend towards conservatism has ended, and that young and old alike are abandoning the conservative power, which is still, it's still a tight race. There's still neck and neck with one another. But the trend, as I mentioned, seems to be in this direction for this end. So, although the quint card is the fool, recklessness, risking a lot of stuff, he is fleeing, as is this guy. So I see their relationship as kind of key in this row. So even the old and the young are in agreement. Isn't that interesting? Well, I do think that as we get closer to the date, that another read will be required, because we are 30 days out. And even though 30 days isn't very much, since it seems to be such a tight, dynamic, and even though the trend seems to be in favor for a more secular ruler that is not as orthodox or conservative, that card can be seen that way, anything can happen, Any scandal can surface, that could derail somebody. But I hope this is, hopeful for Holly and anyone else who has an interest. I hope it's been a hopeful take on the cards. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, and thank you, Holly, for your question.